Good afternoon, YouTube. This is Jesse, your host for A Time in Refinement. Yes, it's my turn to finally talk about something. We'll see if I can match my brother's caliber, but today it's my turn. I'd like to talk about prizing the wrong possessions, and what prompted it was a little article that my brother read me last night, and it hit us both really hard. Really, really hard. And it also prompted this discussion I had with a friend, a very dear friend who is very smart and very emotionally intelligent. We were playing this game called How Deep Can You Go, which is a pretty good game, actually. It's a lot deeper than you'd expect for being like kind of a party-esque game. And the prompt which I was given to him was, if I can recall correctly, yes, it was, what message would you give the world if you had to give everyone a message? What message would that be? And his message was, nearly every person is following the wrong path. I don't remember if he said it quite like that. It was something like, nearly every person is pursuing the wrong thing. And that's quite a message to give to people if you think about it, because you're thinking, if you're going to give a message to someone and you're telling them, say you had a loudspeaker over the entire earth and you said, you're doing the wrong thing. If you heard that, if you assumed it was from God or whatever, Abraxas, your gears would start to spin, right? You wouldn't even know what to do because you're thinking, well, I'm self-improving. I'm trying to be the best that I can. I am doing the right thing, clearly. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing, there is this psychology about us that we only do the things that we want to do, not the things that we don't want to do. And it's a little bit of Alex O'Connor. He talks about this if you watch him at all. And if I were to, let me retread actually back to the article that was read to me last night. It was very, very interesting. And it was a lot about relationships. It was a lot about how the mate selection preferences now are so strange. They're enforced by cultural norms, by media, by movies, and they cause people to have dysfunctional relationships, which sort of keeps the machine going. It keeps consumerism up high. It keeps emotions charged and potent. And it highlights negativity as opposed to positivity, and having a really strong core and a keen sense of a relationship. And you can imagine the problems that stem from something like this. Having a relationship that is inherently dysfunctional is of course toxic, but that's what the media pushes, right? If you are a strong, solid foundation as a man, if you have your finances in order, if you've done the mental work, if you meditate, if you pray, if you fast, if you work out, if you study philosophy, these things are just not prized by women anymore. The things that are prized are quite literally the opposite of the bell curve, if you will. A man who is tattered, is broken, mentally insane even. A man who has no direction, has no finances, no will, really. But what is ideal about that man in a woman's brain, I guess, I'm not in a woman's brain, of course, but I can imagine what is ideal about that is it's desirable to fix something, to be a hero in someone's life. So I can see that in some ways, that you want to save him, you want to rescue him, that's noble, sure. Beauty and the Beast is a classic example. A man who is just wretched, really, has a temper problem, is literally a beast, like literally looks like a beast. And somehow Belle becomes attracted to this. Now, there's a little bit deeper of a rabbit hole to go into with that specific film, but I won't go into it for the sake of brevity. The problem with these dysfunctional relationships is very simple. It highlights the wrong type of person It is prizing the wrong possession, right? It's as if everyone immediately tomorrow decided that gold was dumb. It was this disgusting metal, and everyone started prizing just petrified wood. Maybe we'll say that. Of course, wood is valuable in some ways, but no one would ever say that it's as valuable as gold, right? It's not as rare. But if everyone started prizing wood to the same degree that gold is prized, you know, you would start to have this shift in everything. Really, that scale alone would shift every dynamic. It would change economics. It would change rarity, and the whole, really the philosophy behind what is prized and why it's prized would completely flip. And what things are prized is inherently subjective. It is. So it's a hard discussion to have, right? You think you're prizing the right things, and part of that is psychology. The way we prize things is based on rarity. It's based on its difficulty to achieve. And it's interesting in a way, because you could argue that's evolutionary. You know, if I've heard the argument about sugar. The reason that we can eat an excess of sugar is because in evolutionary, in caveman times, in primal times, sugar was so rare that when you found it, you would eat as much as you possibly could, because it was a fuel source that was sustainable, burned quick. But having a diet of sugar in excess is not beneficial, because it is doing a thing which was a rare event. It is doing that too much, producing way too much dopamine, leading to crashes and depression and all this. So do we bring that back into relationships? Do we connect that somehow? I don't really think you can, because it's all subjective. What is prized and why it's prized it matters to some people, and to others it's, for example, not everyone likes diamonds. Some women like diamonds, some women don't like diamonds, but that doesn't mean the diamonds aren't rare. But does the rarity determine the diamond's value? And I think we're starting to see this large cultural shift in rarity and what it means to be special. And I think there's really something interesting there, that because something is special, it must inherently have value because it's rare. That's completely subjective, right? We only assign value to things because they're rare. But rarity doesn't give it its value inherently, right? Sure, you can argue gold is nice. It actually has certain properties that are beneficial for the body. You can even ingest monoatomic gold, I believe, and it has health benefits. So, do rare things inherently have greater properties? Maybe for rocks, for precious metals, for foods. For people, it's so layered, right? It's so different. You don't know how to assign value. And I think that's where we're lost, is value is no longer, it's no longer who's the strongest, who's the smartest, the fastest, who has the most resources, because that's a tired, played out trope. That was beneficial in times of survival, in times where you needed to have that, man, if you wanted to survive. Now we don't need to survive. I mean, we do, of course, but it's so much easier to survive. It's a factor of 10, maybe 100 times easier to survive now. So are we seeking out more novelty? Are we trying to explore the depths of our emotions, the depths of the human psyche, and how relationships are meant to work, or even just a novelty about a relationship that we've never had? Are we seeking that out? And what are the consequences of that? Should we be going back to tradition? Should we be returning to a very standard survival sense of the dynamic where the man is leading, is in charge, the woman follows. It's all subjective, but it does indicate some level of toxicity in our brains where if you are going after someone just because they're broken, because they're bitter, maybe they're mentally ill, they don't have anything going for them. If you're doing that just because of the novelty, does that indicate something unhealthy about you? If you're choosing a man that is broken completely for all intents and purposes versus a man who is a rock, a solid, just salt of the earth, has the resources in line, has the mental health in check. It's an interesting dichotomy. What do you choose and why? Why would you choose the man who's just plain, right? An average man with everything going for him, that's plain. It's just boring. But is boring what we need more of? Do we need more dysfunction? Do we need to seek out emotional highs, or do we need strength? Do we need to return to a foundation because there's bigger fish to fry? I'll let you answer that.